Good morning, everyone. It's Dex here from A2K. And thanks for joining us for today's webinar, Landscape Architecture, How Plant Data Can Be Used in BIM. So technical consultant Letitia will be presenting for us. So first we'll just go through about A2K, all about fostering innovation through consulting and training. A2K Technologies plays a vital role in helping infrastructure, building, mining, construction, architecture, and manufacturing industries reach their full potential by delivering complete technology solutions and support services such as education, consulting, and IT managed services. Working with visionaries to shape the future of design and in turn enable them through innovation to minimize risks, improve productivities, and achieve excellence. A2K Technologies is considered the business partner of choice and trusted advisor by vendors and clients. We partner with major software and hardware vendors to meet the client's technology needs. We strive to exceed client expectations by understanding their challenges and delivering solutions through experience and innovation. We work with clients and companies of any size, nationally and abroad. Also, guys, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to add them in the chat box and we'll go through them after the presentation. Over to you, Letitia.
Thank you, Dexter. Hello, guys, and be very welcome to this presentation today. So I've done a little bit of an agenda for the presentation, which we're going to be touching within key points in order to deal with data from the planting in Revit specific. So we're going to start by going through parameters, and we're going to understand the different types of parameters that Revit will have. Then we're going to jump into the room data, schedules, tags, color schemas, and I will demonstrate within Revit how it behaves as well. So first of all, we need to understand the different types of parameters that Revit interface will have in order to choose the proper options which will be related to the required outcome you will need with the software. So Revit will have pretty much three main types of parameters. Also, it has global parameters that I haven't listed in there, but it's also existing. So family parameters, it's pretty much users' capability to add extra information within families. And it uses pretty much a custom value that can be created, but this family parameter don't really appear within schedules or tags within your project. So if you're using family parameters, it's not going to be schedulable or tagged. On the other hand, project parameters is your capability to add extra information within your project level, and project parameters, they do appear in schedules, but they not appear within tags. So they are pretty much just information that resides within your project, within the file itself. And then we're also going to have a option for shared parameters. And shared parameters can be used in families as well as within projects. And shared parameters can be created to be used within schedules and tags. Besides those three types of parameters, which are the ones we're going to be focused on today, we also have built-in values, which are pretty much the parameters that are from categories. So when you're starting like a certain category family, it will come with out-of-the-box values. Those are what we call the built-in parameters. And global parameters as well, which is pretty much the capability to associate multiple values in the project level with a single value to be controlled from the global parameter option. Within the room data, we probably all know, if you've been dealing with landscape for a little while, that Revit is not a tool that has been developed specifically for landscape workflow. So sometimes we may need to start thinking out of the box in order to achieve the best results within the software. So even though we may be able to place single families for mass planting, and it is maybe an option when we're working within small projects. When we're dealing with bigger areas, the project can become very quickly can become very cumbersome if we start placing multiple families, as it will increase quite rapidly the size of your files. So as an alternative for this specific workflow, we could be using rooms or areas to achieve this mass planting, along with key schedules and calculated values that we're going to be discussed more in depth when we jump into the software. It will be pretty much easier to maintain the planting data. In saying that, there is not really right or wrong in regards to using areas or rooms to achieve this mass planting workflow, but I will just give you a little bit of a few key points within the differences between areas and rooms. So rooms will pretty much identify walls within your drawings as boundaries, and they are automatically globally available across multiple views in Revit. So if you require to grab an area of your project to create a different view, for example, a detail, etc., we can use the rooms, so they're going to be globally reflected across multiple views, as well as any other view within your project deliverables that may require to reflect any information about those areas. When we're dealing with the areas itself, areas will generate dedicated plans, dedicated views in order to enable the capability to add areas boundaries. And it won't be reflected across multiple views within the software. So this is the main key points. So within this exercise, I have utilized rooms as it enables the information to become available across multiple views in a project if required. We're also going to be touching within schedule. So in Revit, we have what we call bidirectional associativity, which is pretty much any information that we change within our project or within the schedule should be automatically reflected within the family category we're dealing with. So it doesn't matter if we're changing data from the family themselves or if we're changing data from the schedule, it's automatically reflected. And that will help us keep track of the information of the plants that have been used, as well as quantities and any extra information you may require to add and have available within those projects as well. We're also going to be touching within tags. So tags are used in Revit to reflect live information that comes from those families. The key differences between text and tags, for those who haven't been using Revit before, is that tags should automatically update the data if the parameters are updated, while texts will be just static values that won't reflect change within the family. So in Revit, we try always to use tags instead of text to avoid this specific behavior of data from the families we decide to use. When we're creating tags in Revit, we have different types of tags that are available as well. And I will very quickly just explain the differences between the tag types that are available. So we're going to have tag by categories, which will enable the usage of the specific tag only within a certain category. So we create this tag to be dedicated, used for the category. So when creating, for example, a planting tag, we're going to be entitled to only tag planting families, not any other family category within our project. Also, we have multi-category tags that enables users to tag multiple categories that may be sharing common values. Also cost parameters if required. And then we're also going to have material tags, which is our capability to reflect material information that are applied to the geometry. And also keynote tags, which we use an external text file in order to enable extra information to be added within the geometry. So tags are quite customizable. So companies will have their own workflow and tag types depending on the outcome they're trying to achieve in the software. And then we're also going to have color schemas. Color schemas are available for either rooms or areas. And it enables us pretty much color code areas to represent, in this case, we're going to be using for planting. So we're going to be simulating a mass planting workflow where areas are color coded based on the planting we decided to use across those areas. That will help you guys to have those planting views very clearly showing what type of plants are available within certain areas. Also, color schemas not only enable the color coding of those locations, but also you will have a legend capability, which will enable us to then create quick legends within our views. Okay, so from here, I will jump from the PowerPoint into Revit. So in Revit, I have this project, which is one of my sample projects, which will have certain information already added into this drawings. So the first point I want to touch with you, it's a little bit within families. So I have created a family here to reflect existing planting trees. So for example, here I have certain values, there are instances values, in order to reflect the sizes of those existing trees, as well as the structural root zone and the tree protection zones. So you can have them mapped out within the projects if required. The way I created this planting, because they are existing trees, I can pretty much just copy one of those existing tree families, and I can start changing, for example, my foliage diameter. I can change my structural root zone, as well as my tree protection zone, if I require to reflect different sizes from the survey, from the arborist you may be receiving the information from. Within the family, we can add or remove extra values. So those are custom values that I've added to the family in order to reflect that. And because we're going to be tracking data from the new trees, so we don't need to really, in this exercise, we're not going to be seeing existing information, but we're going to be seeing new information. So I've created a value within this existing tree to also be used under this description. Pretty much just filter out those existing trees from the schedules I'm going to be creating for the new trees that are required to reflect. That will enable us to not only filter out our new tree schedule, but if you need to have that existing tree information within a schedule, it could be just for a Q&A reason to manage the data. It will also help you guys to have those existing tree only, as we can use this value to filter out our schedules. So from here, what I will do, I will start by creating one schedule for the existing trees, for the new trees that are within this drawing. So the schedule option is under the view panel, and I can go and pretty much hit the schedule in quantities as my option. Here I will have the capability to choose which categories I want to have those schedules reflect. And in this case, I will select my planting category. Within this planting category, I will hit OK, and then I will have all the fields that are available within this specific category. So for example, here I will add maybe my plant type. So those are parameters that I have created as shared parameters and added into the project. We're going to be adding shared parameters in a minute because we're going to be creating also a tag for our new trees. So in a moment, we're going to also be dealing with those I will open my plant type. I will add also my plant code name, which will be used to specify the code of those plants. I will add my planting scientific name, where it will be used to reflect the botanical name of those plants. I will also add a count value, because I need to know how many plants of each species I'm specifying within this project. And also I will add my planting size, which in this case has been used pretty much to reflect the pot sizes within those plants. So if I don't, the next tab I will have available will be my filter tab, and here we will use pretty much that comments in order to be able to filter out that specific existing trees. So when I add that comments, sorry, it's the description that it has that. Once I add the description, I can utilize that value only to pretty much filter out the existing tree from that schedule. So what I'm saying within this filter option here, I'm saying that this schedule will not reflect, so it's picking any family that has the description that is not equal to the existing tree. So it shouldn't list those existing trees. When we jump into the next sorting and grouping tab, here is our capability to pretty much start organizing the data that we're going to be using within this schedule. So I wanted that data to be first organized by the plant type, and then I wanted that to be organized by the code name. And that will be ascending from the information. I will be not itemizing in this case. I want to just have the total of the schedule. For the plant type, I will add a header as well. Then from here, the formatting tab is our capability to change pretty much the headers within our schedule. So for example, for the plant code name, I can just change it to reflect a code scientific name. I can change it to be my botanical name, for example. And also I will use my count, and I will put the quantity to be reflected within my schedule. And then my planting size will be pretty much as my pot size. The description is a value that I'm just using to pretty much filter out the data within my schedule. So what we'll do, I will hide that value from my schedule. So from here, I will also hide the plant type, because within my sorting and grouping, I've been using the value to be within the header of my schedule. Once we go through those four tabs, we also have the appearance tab, which is our capability to specify the text that we want to utilize within the title. So maybe if you want to have a bigger title, you can specify, and I will also add the headers in my, the header text within my schedule as well. Here we can format the schedule to display or not display grids, to display the title or not, to display the header or not. When I go ahead and I hit OK within this planting schedule, you're going to notice that pretty much that's picking my tree, which is my plant type, and that has a header. It's picking the code, which is the code that is coming from my trees. So what I will do here, I'll just go ahead and I will just make that side by side so you guys can see what's happening here. So this plant that I've been using here has a name. So I've been duplicating my plants to pretty much have the most the species I need within this project. And those plants that are the new trees, they have information within them to reflect those things. So pretty much the plant code name, the plant type, the scientific name. I also have the common name, and it can add extra values if required within the family as well. If I decide to go ahead and select one of those trees and just change the species, paying attention to what happens with the quantity within the schedule. So as soon as I select that option to maybe change the species to a different species, my schedule will automatically update to reflect the new species. If I go ahead and I decide that I need a new tree, I can just pretty much duplicate that one. So maybe I'll just do acacia tree. And then maybe I just want to have, I'll just type acacia, not too sure if that's the scientific name. That will do for this exercise, and I will also add a code for that plant. So if I go ahead and I decide that that plant is the acacia, I can pretty much see automatically that the new tree is reflected within my planting schedule as I start placing and swapping existing trees with that. If I go ahead and I then just decide to plant another one, that will then update that value to reflect the correct number. We also have values here to change the plant width. So if you need that to forecast maybe a plant size of the foliage, you can pretty much update that value to also reflect that change within the hidden lines within this family. So from here, now that we have our planting schedule created, I will go ahead and I will create one of the tags to reflect the quantities. So often when we have planting data in planting views, it's very common that landscape architects will require to also have tags to reflect how many trees are available within a certain location. So I will go ahead and I will create the family for that. So I will go new family. I will pick from my English, sorry, not the imperial, just the English one, a tag to start that planting. So when we're dealing with tags in Revit, we have certain categories that we already have the tag created, like room tag, window tag, etc. But when we don't have a specific category to create the tag from, we start from the generic tag. And then the first thing I will do here, this is the generic template for a tag, and this note is telling you that in order to utilize that with a specific category, I need to choose which category that tag will be working with. And in this case, I will be working with planting. So I will create two values for this specific planting tag. One will be pretty much to reflect the information for the quantity, and also another one to pick the information for the species, so the code that we've been using within those schedules. So I will go ahead and I will create a label. So we're talking about label when we dealing with parameters. So when we need to deal with parameters and reflect those values, we create labels within tags. And I will just update the size here to reflect that type. And then I will click here to pretty much just add the information. So the plant code information should be available within my shared parameter. So I will add the custom parameter, which is pretty much the plant code name. Let me just make sure I have that within my schedule here. So we'll just make sure I have that code name added to my plants. So the plant code name, okay, and I'll just double check that this is the code for the plant. So this has been added as a project parameter. Okay. So first of all, I will go ahead and I will add the value to my shared parameter. So I will go ahead and I will create the tag for this exercise, which will be pretty much a tag with a label for the values that I need reflected. So I need a value that will reflect my planting. So I will create a new value to reflect the quantity of trees. There will be a number value. And then I will also add a new one to pretty much reflect the code or the plant. I will use that one to be my plant scientific name. Okay. We could have that code as a shared parameter as well within the schedule. So let's see how we go within this option. So I'm gonna have that plant, sorry, not the common name, it will be the plant. Okay, just gonna select the scientific name, and I will add that to my tag, and I will also add that quantity, which is pretty much a value that I've just added. Okay. So when I go ahead and I create those two values within my schedule, they will be side by side. So I can either break into two separated lines, or I can put a suffix to separate them. If I need to have the information reflecting also maybe a prefix, like for the quantity, because it will be just a number, I can have that as a prefix in front of that quantity. So from here, nothing really happens. I will just make this background as transparent as well. So from here, when I go ahead and I will just quickly save this family, and I will save as a tag underscore planting. That will be pretty much saved, and I will load into my project so I can start using that within my trees. So here, when I go ahead and I pick my tag by category, which is either their option or my option within my quick access toolbar, I will choose to have a free end, and I will go toward picking within which type of the tree it is, and if I go towards a different tree, it will also reflect the other type, the other species. Within this exercise, I will add that to this location, and I will change the acacia to be pretty much that same tree types. So go ahead, I'll pick that one, and I will type to have the same species. So now they are probably the same tree. So they are the same tree. So now from here, how are we going to be adding the quantity in here in order to reflect how many trees we have? So we don't have any capabilities out of the box to pretty much pick those two trees and automatically know how many trees we have within this specific area, within this specific room. So what I will do for this exercise, I will pretty much add the parameter within the planting, and I will type the value to add. So here I will go ahead to my project parameters. I will add a shared parameter within this project for my quantity of the trees, and I will have this information under dimensions. This is where the information will be available, and I will add a value to my plants. When I go ahead and I add the quantity of the trees to my project, that means that any planting category should have the quantity trees available within the properties, because this is a custom value. And then I will type that to reflect how many trees I have within this specific location. From here, I could pretty much just go ahead and double check. So my planting schedule will always reflect the right quantity because they are live linked with the schedule, while the planting value within the tag is a value that requires to be typed in. this is a workaround in order to identify those planes within those their location. Then from here, we're going to start touching within the rooms and how we utilized the room options in order to create the data. So with the rooms, we're going to utilize a slightly different workflow. So we're going to create what we call in Revit a key schedule to drive those rooms and those locations. So if I go to my view panel here, I have my schedule options, and I have schedule in quantities. Here within schedules and quantities, I will go ahead and I will choose my rooms because this is the category I have chosen to use. And I will create a key schedule to drive common parameters that are available or they are required for those mass planting. When we're using a key schedule, this is just an easier way of manage data within common location. So we can manage multiple rows of data within that option. So within my key name, I will then put my plant as my key name, and then I will hit OK. So from here, this key name is the value that I will utilize to drive values from my project. Key schedules are used in conjunction with schedules in order to drive those values. Within key schedules, we are only capable of utilizing out-of-the-box values that are available for rooms, and they are all instances, or we can choose to create project parameters only. Because project parameters cannot be tagged, I will deal with a few as a project parameters, and a few I will leave to explain a workaround that I found to tag the quantities of those mass planting based on the area. So I will add pretty much the key name. I will add my planting size, my pot size, and also I will add my department. The department for the room in this case is the value that I decided to use in order to drive the naming of the rooms and the locations. So here I won't be very fancy about the other options. I will just go ahead and I will create this key schedule because this is just to help driving data within my project. So when we're dealing with key schedules, they always blank, and we insert rows to create the keys we require to deal with. So let's say I may want to create that for my shrubs, for example. So I may just start adding a few shrubs within this schedule. So what I will do, I will just type in maybe shrub for 1, and then I can go ahead and go shrub 2, and I will be adding manually the data in order to drive that information. So just change the numbers. You guys would probably add the shrub names within those locations, so you can pretty much update them as required to reflect the proper information within your projects. In this case, my department name will be the same as my shrubs. And I will also add a little bit of them data within the planting size and the pot size. Okay, so my planting size may be meters, I can go maybe 0.5, so maybe 1, 2.5, and then I can also go 4. If things are, if things are rounding up, this is usually a formatting. So within my planting size here in my schedule, I can change my field format to reflect my project settings, or I can change that maybe to be meters, and then I can also change to how many decimal places I want that reflected. So if I change this, now I should have my planting size, and I can go maybe 0.5 because this is the data millimeters before. So 0.5, there may be 1 meter, there may be 1.5, there may be 0.8. And then I can also go ahead and choose my pot sizes. So I'll just random populate those as well. Okay, so now that I have all the information that I require for that, I can start placing those shrubs within the areas and my plants. So how does that work? When I go back to my planting location, here I have a location within this area, and I will start creating my rooms. If you don't have separations within your rooms, we need to first enable the room separator. So we're gonna pick the separation for those locations. Okay, so that is separation here already. And I can also draw any other shape. So if you guys may want to have a round shape, rectangular shape, etc., you can pretty much add each to the location as well. And then I will go ahead and I will create my rooms. So before placing my rooms, I have a tag already loaded within my project that is reading the department name from the room as well as the area. So what I will do, within this department value here, I have, within the plant value, which is my key name, I will have pretty much my shrubs. And here I will be able to select which value is related to the location. So then I can start going ahead and I can start placing those shrubs within the required locations. I will go ahead and I will place a few more, so I have a few extra areas, so I'll always go to that option, and then I can start placing those shrubs across my project. Okay, from here I will create also a schedule to reflect the information for the planting. So now we're going to create a schedule that we may be utilizing within our title blocks to reflect the data. Before I do it, I will just first change this schedule, the tag. So because we utilize within these schedules only project parameters which cannot be tagged, you could just use the key schedule to also drive the density of the mass planting, and then users wouldn't be able to add that to a tag. Or I found a alternative workflow that tends to work quite well as a workaround, which is pretty much my capability to create a calculated value and add that to the tag. So instead of using a project parameter, I will use a shared parameter with a calculated value to reflect how many plants I require within this area. And for this exercise, I will just pretty much edit the existing tag. So I will go ahead, and this is pretty much as reflecting the area, so I will just edit that specific option, and I will go ahead and I will add a shared parameter. So here I have pretty much my planting information. I will edit to add a new one that is called the plant density. Okay, and this value will be a number. I will add that plant density as a shared parameter that I will utilize to pretty much calculate a value. So within this plant density, what I want to do, I want to create a calculated value that it's pretty much the quantity of those plants within a certain area, and I will utilize a formula, which will be my area value times my density. So I utilize the plant density to calculate a value within my projects. Often if you don't put a bracket and you try to go, okay, Revit displays these inconsistent units. So a workaround for that would be just divide the value by 1, and then that should pretty much calculate that option. So I will add the value here, and then I will load this tag back into my project. Okay, so from here, we know we don't have the value calculating anything yet. So what I will do from here, I will create my room schedule to reflect those locations. So under my room schedule, I will pretty much go ahead to my view panel. I will go schedules and quantities. I will choose my room option in here. And then I will add the information that I require to have available. So I will start with the department, which is the location where I have my shrubs name for this exercise. I will have the areas. Also, I will have my planting size, and I will make sure this is the planting size that is coming from my project parameter, so it's coming from that key schedule. I will also add my plant density, which is the value I have created pretty much to utilize with the shared parameters. So let me just go ahead, and I will just require to add the shared parameter for the density, which is the one that I just created. So let me just cancel. I just need to remove those two values from here. And I will add the shared parameter for the plant density. Okay, the parameter will be grouped under my dimensions. Okay, so I now have those options, and I will also create a calculated value for my schedule. And that calculated value will calculate the quantity of those plants, the total of those plants. And there will be a similar formula, which is pretty much the area times the plant density value. So I'll just divide that by 1, and then I will hit OK. Here under my sorting and grouping, I will sort the schedule based on the department, and I will have that as a header and a footer. And I will use that to calculate the totals of every single type of shrub. And then I will organize that by area as well. And I will leave a blank line between those options. Going ahead under my formatting tab, I can go ahead and start typing different headers again for that specific schedule. Within the quantity, I will have that to calculate totals. So that should give me the total. So I'll go ahead and I'll go OK, and then let's see what we have. So we have the shrubs that I placed within the individual areas and locations, and the sizes that it's calculated pretty much from the key schedule. It's picking from the key schedule. And then I will go ahead and I will start adding the planting density. Because the plant density is an instance value, I could add the value within each of the entry I have here. And a way around that option is to pretty much create a Q&A schedule just to add the plant density as well. So that will drive that specific shrub to have a specific density as well. If I go ahead within this schedule, I will just quickly hide the department option because I have the department reflected within my header. Okay. So now we'll go ahead and first of all, I will go to my manage panel and I will add another project parameter, and I will add the plant density to become available for my rooms because I want that pretty much to be appearing within my schedule. And I will group under the dimensions as well. Okay, so I'll add that to my rooms. Here. Okay, and then I will hit OK. So now we should be able to type that density, which could be, let's say, maybe this is 20 per area, and that will calculate that quantity. If I go back to that location, any location that has the value added will automatically reflect that quantity within the schedule based on the areas as well. What I will do for here, instead of going ahead and just going one by one, adding the planting density, I will create another schedule called Q&A for density, which will reflect pretty much my rooms, and that will be my Q&A for density. I will hit OK. This schedule will only have the department and the density. So I will go ahead and I will add the plant density value. From here, I will have the schedule to just not be itemized. So I just want to have one entry for every department display. Here I can go ahead and then go plant density, and I can populate the plant density for all my plants. We'll just go ahead and I will type a few values. Upon adding those values to the plant density and the departments, my room schedule will automatically reflect those values within specific locations. And here I can go ahead and start seeing how my tags are reflecting those values within those locations as well. So within the schedule, I pretty much have the total quantity for every type of shrub. And within my locations, I have the tag reflecting individual areas if required. Then just to finish off, I will go ahead and I will apply the color schema to color code those locations. So color schemas, they are available under the view properties. They can be added within your view templates if this is something standard. And color schemas is our capability to choose from certain categories only and start color coding those locations. So here I will edit this specific name, or I can create a new one by duplicating the existing one, and I will call it my planting color schema. Within my planting color schema, I will add a title for the legend and for my color schema to be my shrub legend, because when I create the legend, I want that value to come through. And then I will color code based on a certain value, which in this case will be my department. Here we could change the colors if required, as well as adding different patterns. I will leave that as a few patterns within green colors. You can also include elements from links if that's required. When I go ahead and I hit OK, that should pretty much start color coding those locations in my plane. And then to finish off with this exercise, I will go ahead and I will also add my legend, which is pretty much under the annotate tab, and here I have my shrub legend reflecting those colors. The beauty about using this workflow is that if areas update, counts will also update to reflect any new information, similar to what we'll be seeing with the trees. Okay. So from here, guys, I will pretty much open up to any questions that you guys may have. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to type them now within the Q&A, and I will be addressing some of the questions. If I don't have time to address them all, I will then be reaching you guys on your emails to send the response for those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Letitia. So I think we'll just wrap it up there. And Sherwin, yes, we'll be sending out a follow-up email to all the participants.
So I can see I have a few Q&A questions. Someone is requesting a copy of the video. Yes, we're gonna be sharing the record from the session. The link, so I have another one for sharing. The link in the trees, is it a manually drawing as a detail line? Yes. So the link between the trees is just a line that we added to link them. We can have other discussions on that as well. Guys, let me know if you have any other questions. So I have a question from David here. Is manually changing the number in the tag the only way to tag multiple trees families in a single tag? You can use things like Dynamo to get the information written based on how many trees you have within certain areas. So I would say you probably have workarounds out of the box. You'll be the tag reflecting the single trees, the type we're going to be adding to their workflow. But the most important is that our schedules will always reflect the right information. So even though we do a typo and we do a mistake or we forgot to change something, schedules should be always reflecting the information based on the families. How do you add tree graphics, edge graphics? So I'm not sure what is that in relation to. If it's in relation to the hidden lines, we can change the graphics based on the subcategories of the family. So we can create extra subcategories for the families, and we can also change the color based on the object styles as well. So we can change to anything that may be required. We can add extra symbols to reflect existing trees or new trees to reflect any OFC standards. So if we do implementations, we try to always match OFC standards as well. Okay. Someone is asking if we have a training course. So yes, we do have a training course for landscape where we discuss more in-depth workflows. Users are encouraged to ask any specific questions within the workflows as well. And that is a 2-day training session. We start from the very basics of Revit. It's very dedicated to just landscape architects as well. We touch on those schedules, information, etc. We don't go very in deep within the tagging and the creation of tags, but I'm happy to answer any questions if required. I use Key Escape to create my planting plans. Is there a way to import this information into Revit to automatically generate family tags, schedules, etc.? Amanda, we can have a chat in private about this specific topic, and then we go from there. Cool. Guys, if you have any other questions, I just would like to pretty much change to the last slide. I have created a calendar in Calendly, which is your capability to book a 30-minute conversation or a conversation with myself. I have allowed the 14th and the 15th of October to be available for you guys to book sessions so we can have personal discussions, etc., within your workflows, training, implementations, etc. And I will be available through those 2 days. If you guys are not available on those days and you wanted to schedule a session, please reach us out and we're going to be more than happy to pretty much schedule a session to have a discussion in another time that may suit you better. So thank you, Dexter.